Hey, Patrick Findaro, co-founder at Vetted Biz. Very excited to have on two executives from Right at Home, a pretty established home care franchise that's been around since 1995 with over 500 locations in the US as well as internationally. And we have Margaret Haynes, who's been with the firm for 11 years now and recently was promoted to president and CEO. So congrats there, as well as Jen Chaney, who's the VP of franchise development. So today we're going to talk about the home care industry, potential benefits to go the franchise route, what Right at Home's all about, and other tidbits for someone that might want to get into an industry that you make a good impact in your community and you make good money to support your family. So thanks, Margaret and Jen, for joining today.
My pleasure.
Margaret, maybe we could start with you. How did you get into the space? Were you working in franchising before? Were you working in home care? How did you hook up with Right at Home?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is no. I knew nothing about franchising nor anything about home care prior to joining Right at Home. So I actually built a 18-year career in the financial services area. So coming into Right at Home, it was an opportunity where I was looking for how can I take my business background and match that with health and human services, because I really wanted a role in a company where I felt I was making a difference every day. And you certainly can't ask for a better type of business model than this business model, in which you're getting to touch lives in so many different ways. Not only just helping seniors, but obviously being able to employ different individuals, helping small business owners build profitable businesses.
Well, yeah, 18 years in financial services. I just lasted 2 years, if that, at JP Morgan. So that's incredible. I mean, it's not an easy working environment, and you're dealing with very bright people, but also very type A personalities. So
yes, yeah.
I'm sure that those learnings have really helped you in your role at Right at Home.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And then how about you, Jen?
Well, I've had 0 years in financial services prior to joining Right at Home. But prior to joining Right at Home, I worked for a drive-through coffee franchise in franchise development for 7 years. And specifically, the reason why I joined Right at Home, and it's a very common reason as to why people join the Right at Home franchise and become franchise owners, is for that compelling reason. My sisters and I were caregivers for my mother in the final stages of her life. We actually did hire a caregiver to come help with that in those final months of her life. So we were able to spend more meaningful time with mom and then the caregiver caring for my mother. But realizing that this is a business, this is a franchise, this is a business that somebody owns. And this is something that, I could do in a roundabout way. So this opportunity opened up for me to work in franchise development for a home care franchise, and I hopped on it. I was ready for a change.
And so what has been more attractive in the prior industry that you worked with in the franchising space compared to the home care?
Well, I mean, it's a huge difference between drive-through coffee and senior care. So that would be just, I would say, the biggest difference in and of itself is the business model. Completely different concept, but practically the same thing. I was doing the same thing there that I was doing here, but a completely different business model. So that's obviously would be the big obvious
Is it
difference.
more of like an education aspect? Like, because unless you've cared for a loved one or you've been a home care, giver yourself, it's probably a little harder to relate to than like a coffee business or anything that's food related.
A little bit from franchise owners joining Right at Home versus a coffee franchise. There's a big difference in the type of person I think that you would want for each one of those concepts, because we do want people joining Right at Home that have that compelling reason, that want to make a difference in people's lives. You want to join a coffee franchise, I think, for other reasons. So, but I mean, that's a good segue into the type of person that we look for in franchise ownership for Right at Home. It's important that they have that compelling reason and that need for wanting to improve the lives of people that they serve. Of course, they have to meet the financial requirements, which is $150,000 of liquid capital, but it's very important to us that you have that compelling reason as well.
And like a coffee business, it's not the most scalable because it's probably going to be like $250,000, $300K at least. And then you hit a certain revenue, you're making $100K. And then guess what? You got to reinvest it and open up the second one or third one.
Yep. And that works for people then. And they know going into that in order to really grow in that business, you have to have a lot of locations. This is the type of business that a franchise owner can purchase a territory and then grow that territory. Then, of course, with the tenure of a franchise owner, they reach a point where they want to expand their business. They can purchase another territory. We've had a lot of expansions in the past few years.
And brick and mortar, it's like a little scary because you're not only are you signing a franchise agreement that could be 10 years, but you're signing a lease for at least 5 years, personal guarantee on the lease. You probably don't have the $500K or whatever to open up that coffee shop. So you got to take an SBA loan, another personal guarantee. And you're just going all in on a concept that should work, but going into it, your income's capped where you're going to be, it's going to be hard to break out of the 200K level before having to reinvest again and open up that next coffee shop.
Yep, that's right. You got it.
And what's the general landscape like? I mean, there's a lot of home care franchises, and you would think it from like someone that's not in the space that it's a crowded space, but the macroeconomics and the baby boomers are just exploding, especially here in Florida where we're based, which they need this service. So love to hear from you two, the experts. I'm just a novice on what your industry. I like it, but would love to hear from you two on what this space is all about and what the coming years look like from like a figures perspective, as well as how Right at Home's position against other franchises, big corporations, as well as just mom and pop home caregivers.
Yeah, so I'll maybe jump in first, and then Jen can certainly chime in as well. But you hit on exactly. I mean, this industry, we are just on the cusp of, as we think about the aging of the population and the number of individuals that are going to be turning 65 every day, going forward as we move through the baby boomers, right? And so we know that there is way more demand out there today than there is actually supply. We at first time kind of in our industry over these last couple of years, because the pandemic also kind of heightened the importance of being able to allow seniors to stay in their home. That's the safest place to be. Then the family can come and visit them. So we know that the demand out there, so many people would love to be able to take advantage of this service. And so there is tremendous opportunity. And that's what we're seeing even from a development perspective. We have not only existing owners that are buying additional territory because they see so much value in what they can bring to their local communities. But even during the pandemic, we had several individuals coming in and starting up brand new Right at Homes because of the growing dynamics and how there's so many that we could bring this mission to life for.
Yeah.
And how are your franchisees getting clients? Is it like a referral type business? Is it through Google Ads, Facebook ads? How do you get that initial book of clients to serve?
Yeah, so it's all of the above in terms of how you actually get the clients. So certainly a lot of times it may be the adult children that are looking for care from mom or dad. So in that case, a lot of times they will go to the internet and start searching to say, how can I find someone to help with assistance? But it's also word of mouth. It's through referral sources that the local Right at Home owner would create relationships with their skilled nursing facilities, with discharge planners from the hospitals in their local area, so that they can actually understand the needs of those discharge planners, because they too want to make sure that these patients that they're dealing with are actually getting the care that they need. They're going home to a supportive environment where they've got food and will follow their regimens that they need to do and make their appointments, all of that. So those are things that Right at Home can come in and support individuals so that they don't go back into the hospital and they actually can age gracefully wherever they call home.
Yeah, and I'm sure that discharge officer or maybe the superiors could have big issues with the insurance companies, Medicare, if like they discharge someone and in 2 weeks they're back. They don't want that. They could risk their job.
That's right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And what's the infrastructure look like? So like a franchisee, they've been running a Right at Home for 3 years. How many employees? Are there contractors? How does that business look like?
Yeah, so I'll jump in here again. So in looking at the structure of the offices, if you, for your example, like a 3-year-old office, all of the employees for that local franchise are employees. So they're not contractors. So they're not 1099s. They all are W-2 employees, which we really pride ourselves on that because we want to make sure that we know who that individual is that is going into the home, right, and taking care of the loved one. But when you look at the size of their business, it really depends on how many hours they're doing a week, but they're typically going to have someone that is doing all of the scheduling. So the coordinating of the clients that are needing some service and the caregivers that are available and matching those together to ensure that that care can be provided. There's also someone that is working from a marketing perspective, so that is out there in the community helping identify clients, going in and doing assessments, seeing what is that particular individual, what do they need help with, what are their abilities, and what is the support we can bring alongside those abilities to help them age gracefully. And then, so typically an office itself would be maybe 3 to 5 individuals. But then from a caregiver staff perspective, it could be 100 different caregivers that they may have on staff, because it depends on each caregiver's availability and how many hours they want to bring each week and what works with their particular schedule and the things that they have going on in their life.
And what are you like? I guess with franchising, I see it's like how fast to open, how fast to break even, and then how fast to make like decent income, where it's like at least like $5,000 that the owner's making to cover, you know, their basic expenses. How do you ensure that they hit those milestones as fast as possible?
So I'll jump in here again, Jen, and then you can certainly join as well. But so we are very focused on, our goal is at the end of the day, we have to help our owners build sustainable, profitable businesses, because if they don't, then right there, they can't stay in business. And obviously what I love about the franchising model is that we're not successful if our owners aren't successful. So we don't make a single penny unless our owners are actually making some money as well. So we don't make money on additional arrangements with vendors, any of that.
You don't get like big rebates back with the discharge?
Yeah, no. Anytime a vendor would say, oh, we can give you this rebate, we would ask them, if you have that to give, then it should be given back.
Pass it on.
That's right. Pass it on to our franchise owners and reduce their expense. So we have coaches that are in place and that work from the day that they come into the business. Actually, our development directors that Jen oversees do a great job making sure that each person coming into the system really has a good understanding of what the business model is, what is a day in the life of a franchise owner, because we want them to come in eyes wide open, right? We don't really want to sell them a franchise. We want to have a connection where they are wanting to get into the senior business and we feel that they would be successful in that business and we have a good partnership that we can work together. And that's also something I love about the franchise model that we have, is we just have so many wonderful franchise owners across the entire system that are really focused on bringing this mission to life every day. But it's our coaches that engage.
How long is a contract for? The initial franchise
an initial
agreement?
Franchise agreement's 10 years.
Okay. So then after 10 years, I imagine most franchisees renew it. What happens in like after 7 years, they want to get out of the business, they're moving. Can they sell to anyone? Like if they built this empire, can they go ahead and sell it to someone else with some business broker? Or how does that process work if someone's looking to move on to other endeavors, or they're getting old and their kids don't want to take over the franchise?
Yep, that's me. I'll take that one, Margaret. So the answer is no, they can't sell to just anyone. What they have to do is we have to approve the new buyer. But we have a lot of franchise owners that sell their business to their child or their spouse. We call those legacy transfers, and we assist with that. We help with that. We encourage that. We love those. Those are great stories to tell. A franchise owner building an empire and then passing it on to their children. But when it comes time for a franchise owner to sell their business, they contact us and they either sell to an existing right-at-home franchisee, so selling to a neighbor is a great option, or they sell to a new outside buyer. So we help them get their business for sale. And then once we identify a buyer, then that buyer goes through the approval process with one of our development directors, ultimately leading to a discovery day. And then so once that buyer is approved on a discovery day, then there's that window of time from discovery day to when the business actually transfers to them as the new owner. We help them with all of those things as well, including attending training, executing the purchase agreement, all that good stuff.
And I imagine if someone's looking to buy like an existing franchise, it would be like a pretty big entry level. Like if the business is doing 500K in sales or even $1 million in sales, they'd have to really write a big check. But if someone's looking to start a right at home from zero and work with your system to get it off the ground, like how much more or less would they have to invest to open one?
Yep. So the franchise fee for purchasing a brand new territory is $49,500. And the initial investment to get into right at home franchises anywhere from $87,000 to $156,000. And that includes the franchise fee. It also includes, we bake in some operating capital for the first few months. I also encourage franchise owners to look at item 6. Those are other fees. That includes the royalties and the ongoing fees that they would have to pay. One thing that I do want to note is that when a right at home prospect is going through the education process with us, trying to get approved for franchise ownership, our development directors go through a very detailed FDD review phone call with every single prospect. I went to a franchise conference a few years ago, and it was pretty astounding to see how many franchisors just say, hey, here's the FDD. Let me know if you have any questions.
Best of luck. You can hire an attorney. You don't have to just
that terrifies
sign
me.
in 14 days.
Oh my goodness. So we take the time to really educate every right at home prospect. We go through every single item in the FDD to make sure that they fully understand it.
And do you disclose financials in your FDD?
Mm-hmm. We sure do.
Can you talk a little bit to the extent that you're comfortable on just how much they're making? What are the financials like for a right at home franchisee?
Yep, you bet. So in our most recent, you're quizzing me here, in our most recent FDD, we refer to it as the average net billing. So that's just kind of like a fancy word for when franchise owners, when clients bill, when franchise owners bill the clients, just on an annual basis, how much are our franchise owners, receiving as far as net billings? So the average net billings for an office that's open a year or more, I believe, is around $1,386,000. I believe that is correct, with a gross margin of 43.4%. I'm going to have to look at the FDD to make sure that I'm right, but I'm pretty sure that is right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
then I imagine like the net varies, but what I've seen in the industry, I mean, if someone's working full time, could be 25% more or less. And then if someone's less involved, then it's going to go down in terms of what they're making in the business.
Yep, that's right. And we have seen, this is an owner operator business model that we have. But historically, we have seen franchise owners that are really engaged with the franchisor tend to thrive a lot more than those franchise owners that aren't as engaged.
And how long does it take to get to that where it's $1 million+ business? Like, is this like a 5-year thing that you're like just ramping up and it's like a steady curve to get to that $1 million, or is it like a get rich quick thing?
I don't say, hey, if you know of a get rich quick thing, Patrick, let me know.
Yeah, you just sell stuff on Amazon.
Yeah,
you can make millions of dollars.
There you go. I don't know that I could really answer that, like by year X, you're making, you'll make at least $1 million and expect this. I think generally, and I'm trying to picture item 19, a chart that we have in there that shows you exactly. If you have been open this many months in operation, your average net billing should be this. We have a fantastic chart in item 19 that outlines that.
And are your franchisees pretty open? Like, will the average prospect talk to a few franchisees and ask them these kind of questions?
Oh my gosh, Patrick, that is the number one thing that I recommend. And every prospect that actually becomes a right at home franchise owner, they say really awesome things about the franchisee validation part of the sales process, because you're talking directly with franchise owners who are working this business. Of course, I can tell them anything about right at home, and so can our development directors, but hearing it directly from our franchise owners, and we encourage them, we prepare them. You may hear a franchise owner having a horrible day, a franchise owner having a great day. This business, you could have peaks and valleys. We want you to hear it all. So our prospects really love the franchisee validation part of the process because it's so informative. Our franchise owners are very open. They know how much it meant to them when they joined the Right at Home system. They went through franchisee validation. So they really do take the time to talk to prospects about Right at Home franchise ownership.
One thing that we've started doing internally, and I don't know if there's a product for this in the market, but at Vetted Biz, we've been interviewing some franchisees. Then we anonymize the prospective franchisee and anonymize the franchisee. Like if they mention location, mention names, and it's like, here's a 40-minute transcript. So then franchisees, a prospective franchisee, instead of a 40-minute call, it's more like 5 minutes. Hey, I read through your notes. Just wanted to check these few things. Because I imagine some franchisees, it's like they must feel like a broken record where they've like, hey, I've talked to 50 people. I love you guys. Right at home, big fan. But it's like I'm kind of always saying the same thing.
Yes. Yeah. And one thing that we have done that has been really great for people joining the Right at Home system, we have created a huge digital library, a resource center online for prospects to self-educate. So 15-minute franchisee interviews where they can go in there and watch these interviews one after the other. I ask the same questions, but franchise owners have different answers. So they get a different perspective from different tenured franchise owners, new ones, the ones that have been in the system for a long time. It's been really great.
What areas of the U.S. are you two most excited to expand into and recruit candidates from? Are there any particular cities, states that you really would love to have candidates and you see that there's a huge opportunity?
Oh man, I suppose, and I'll take that one, Margaret, because she knows that this is something that I'm constantly thinking about. So we are in 47 of the 50 states. I believe Wyoming, Vermont, and Alaska are the only states where we don't have franchise owners. So would certainly love to expand our footprint there, but a lot of the major metros, because we've been around for 25 years, a lot of those major metros, we have already sold out. But that's not to say that we don't still have some territories left in those major metros. So the areas that we are really focusing on, or specifically me, I've canvassed the United States and looked at our available inventory. We still have a lot of great territories that have a high senior count, that are outside of those major metros. So it's a lot of geo-targeting and specific advertising and marketing in those areas. I'd love to be able to canvass the United States and say, hey, join the Right at Home system. But we'd have a lot of people calling from those areas that are already sold. But last I checked, we have over 350 territories left in the United States to sell.
How do you define territories? Because like territory for one franchise system or one prospective franchisee means a different thing.
Yeah. So it's a collection of zip codes with a senior count of at least 15,000 seniors.
Okay. So that's like, and what does a successful Right at Home franchisee look like? If they have 100 seniors of those 15,000, is that like a good book of business?
That's a trick question, Patrick, because we have some territories where they per se would have a lower senior count that are doing amazing. That could be doing more business than a territory that has a high number of seniors. I firmly believe it's all about the franchise owner and how they work the business, and depending on the type of market that they have. I can think of one franchise owner that has a relatively rural territory, and he's just crushing it because he's working his business in a way that's centered around, a little bit of a urban rural territory versus somebody who's smack dab in the middle of Chicago would be operating their business differently. And
do you have franchisees that are are you open, I guess, to two different franchisees? I imagine you have some that they won't stop and they're building that $1 million business. And then you have others that are happy, making 100K and they hit a certain revenue target and they'd rather spend more time with their kids and other activities. Are you okay with having both of these owner operators?
Yeah, we are. And so I see Margaret, we're both nodding. We're like, yes, we are. But if we had it our way, they'd all be growing their business. But there's some franchise owners that are doing great. They love where they are. They're really not being proactive, really grow that business, even though there may be an opportunity there. But Margaret, I'll let you answer that question.
Yeah, and the answer is yes. But certainly when we look at an owner, we always talk about the minute your business stops growing, it's actually declining, right? Because expenses continue to kind of creep up. So we always want to focus on a growth trajectory from a business perspective. And if it's at a point where they're just kind of exhausted, then it's okay. Let's get you introduced back into Jen's team and let's talk about maybe doing something with this asset, because you don't want the asset to decline before you actually are doing something with it as well. But, and we also use performance groups. So we have a program within our system where we bring franchisees together and they act like board of directors to each other. So there's small groups of maybe 8 to 12. And they hold each other accountable and talk about the challenges they're having. They benchmark key performance indicators every quarter with each other. And there's a facilitator from the corporate office, and it's really helping them focus on growth and operational excellence. And it's a great way that, again, we support our offices around that sustainable, profitable business.
Is it just all business, or do they sometimes open up with like personal issues in these groups?
No, it's not all business. So they actually, everything's on the table, right? So at some point during the meetings when they get together, they always get together twice a year, face to face. And it's like, okay, what's the burning issue? What's keeping you up at night? And so that could be something that is, well, gosh, my spouse and I aren't necessarily on the same page right now. Yeah. Or it could be, I've got this issue going on in my office and we're not connecting with some of our team members. But it really is a really supportive, but very open, environment in which they're just there. Everybody comes with positive intent to help each other grow.
Any concluding thoughts for someone that's looking to get into the home care space or even with Right at Home that you'd like to leave for those watching us or listening on our podcast channel?
So I'll jump in first, and then I'll certainly let Jen have an opportunity. But as I think about Right at Home and why I ultimately got into this industry, and I too have had the opportunity to also be a consumer of Right at Home services with my mom. And there aren't enough words to describe the impact that the caregivers from Right at Home had on me and my sisters and my dad and my mom as she progressed with Alzheimer's. And so when I take that in connection with building a sustainable, profitable business in an industry where you can actually touch your community in a way that I can't think of any other way you could do it in such a meaningful way. So you're not only giving employment opportunity to your office staff and to caregivers that you employ, but actually to the clients that you're providing the services and their family members or their loved ones and friends that maybe just need some respite as they're helping see their loved one move through this aging process. And we're all going to age, whether we like it or not. And I think it's great to be able to know that there's this service out there that can help you continue to capitalize on what you're able to do and bring someone alongside you that can help you with some of those things that are maybe becoming more difficult. And so I feel very blessed to be a part of this industry. And the Right at Home system as a whole, we have the best franchisees out there. They are just so committed to bringing our mission to life. So I'll let Jen also give a little last feedback.
Yeah. For me, with people looking to join the Right at Home system, they're looking at, either other home care franchises or possibly other franchises outside of this space. But I think a good way to decipher which one to choose from, your journey as you go through the education process with the brand that you're exploring is going to be similar to your journey once you become a franchise owner. So that's one thing that I'm really proud of here at Right at Home is that we have a really awesome process in place. These people who inquire about joining the Right at Home system, they're never waiting on us for anything. It's a very well laid out process, step by step, fully educated, a great discovery day. I mean, we touch on everything. Franchisee validation, I mentioned that earlier, is incredibly important. And that's the same journey that you're going to have as a franchise owner. Another thing that I'm very proud of here at Right at Home is the great culture that we have and the support that we give to our franchise owners.
I can really resonate with that because like for a professional advisor, like an accountant or attorney, and now I'm very happy with the accountant we have, the attorney that we have, but like we've gone through 3 or 4 over the years. And it's like, as a prospective client, it was kind of the same, like the responsiveness, the level of work product, follow-ups, it was the same. It wasn't like a big surprise. So if someone's being very responsive and proactive, when you're a prospective franchisee or prospective buyer or whatever service, if it's the organization's well run, it's probably going to flow through for when you're a client or when you're a business partner.
Yeah, you got it.
How can people reach out to you too if someone's interested in potentially joining the Right at Home family?
So we have a franchising website that you can visit full of information about Right at Home. There's a lead form on there that they can complete. Once they complete that, I mean, it's an automated notification to our development directors, our marketing manager. You will hear from us almost immediately via text message, email, and we'll get the ball rolling.
Perfect. And we'll be sure to put in the call notes, as well as the YouTube description, a link to your website.
Perfect.
Margaret and Jen, I really enjoyed today's conversation. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for having us.